Prynhawn da a chroeso i gyfarfod cyffredinol blynyddol ymddiriedolaeth Gwasanaeth Iechyd Genedlaethol Prifysgol Velindre ar gyfer y cyfnod adnog 2019-2020. Good afternoon and welcome to the Velindre University NHS Trust Annual General Meeting for the reporting period 2019-2020. Mae'r cyfarfod cyffredinol blynyddol heddiw yn cael ei ffrydio'n fyw. Fel aelod o'r cyhoedd, gallwch fynychu'r cyfarfod fel sylwebydd. Mae hynny'n golygu y gallwch weld a chlywed y drafodaeth a'r cyflwyniadau, ond ni fyddwch yn gallu cymryd rhan weithredol yn y cyfarfod. Today's annual general meeting is being live streamed. As a member of the public, you can attend the meeting as an observer. That means that you can see and hear the discussion and presentations today, but will not be able to actively participate. Bwriadwn ddarparu recordiad fideo o'r cyfarfod, a fydd ar gael ar y wefan yn fuan iawn ar ôl y digwyddiad. Ac felly am y rheswm hwnnw, gofynnwn i chi beidio â chofnodi'r cyfarfod eich hun. We intend to provide a video recording of the meeting, which will be available on the website soon after the event. And so, for that reason, we ask that you do not record the meeting yourself. Hoffwn yn awr gyflwyno cadeirydd yr ymddiriedolaeth, yr athro Donna Mead, a fydd yn agor ein cyfarfod cyffredinol blynyddol. I would now like to introduce the Trust Chair, Professor Donna Mead, who will open our annual general meeting.
Prynhawn da pawb a croeso. On behalf of myself and the Trust Board, I'd like to welcome you all to Velindre University NHS Trust Annual General Meeting. As you've just heard, I'm very pleased to confirm that this meeting is being live streamed today. The current restrictions in place prevent us from holding this meeting in a public gathering, as we have done in previous years. The hope is that today's format will enable as many of you as possible to be able to join us via the internet. Those of you who've joined the meeting today, which I understand to be a mix of staff and the public, a very warm welcome to you all. This is my third annual general meeting as chair of Velindre University NHS Trust. My first AGM took place very shortly after my appointment. So at this, my third AGM, I'm settled into the role and feel enormously proud and privileged to be chair of this amazing organisation. I was very pleased in May this year when the Minister for Health and Social Services, Vaughan Gethin, following an appraisal, extended my appointment for 4 years, and I hope that the staff are as pleased as I am. You might expect that we would devote much of our time today to discussing COVID-19 and how we've worked to care for patients and staff during the pandemic. However, we will not be discussing COVID-19 in any significant detail today. And the reason for that is that this is our annual general meeting for the period April 2019 to March 2020. The arrival of the pandemic here in Wales came just as this reporting period was coming to an end. At the start of this reporting year, we had no idea what was on the horizon and what we would have to face. I'll just say this, as someone once said, in order to succeed, people need a sense of self-efficacy, to struggle together with resilience to meet the inevitable obstacles and inequities of life. And this is something the staff of Velindre, both the Cancer Centre and the Welsh Blood Service, did when reacting to COVID-19. COVID was indeed iniquitous, affecting as it did the vulnerable, the young, healthcare workers and of course BAME individuals. It was a difficult and worrying time, but with teamwork, a sense of purpose and a belief in each other's skills, and commitment from everyone, Velindre rose to the challenge very quickly. The level of professionalism was so high, it was off the scale. We remain in uncertain times, but the board knows that our most precious resource is our staff, and on behalf of the board, I want to thank every one of them. And it's for that reason that I'm particularly pleased that the annual general meeting provides us with an opportunity not only to present the Trust's annual report for 1920, but also to celebrate how proud we are of our staff and to recognise just some of their fantastic achievements. And there are too many to mention all of them here today, which is a point I need to make. But this meeting also provides us with an opportunity to thank all our dedicated volunteers, our fundraisers and our supporters, without whom we couldn't continue to provide the services we do and to perform the vital role we play within NHS Wales. We've divided our agenda into two parts. The first part is to enable us to discharge our statutory obligations by presenting to the public our annual report. And the second part has been planned to give a flavour of the achievements during the year which fill us with pride. And we have something really special planned, which more shortly. Velindre University NHS Trust provides specialist services to the people of Wales. The operational delivery of services is managed through the Velindre Cancer Centre and the Welsh Blood Service. Trust officers have prepared a unified annual report, but as in previous years, this has been broken down into a separate suite of documents to make our reporting more accessible. Smaller reports are more user-friendly for the public, and we wanted to ensure that the public don't feel overwhelmed by a large combined report and could easily access the sections which were relevant to them. To complement this, the Trust has a designated web page with tabs to access each of the reports that you can see on the screen now. Furthermore, in accordance with our commitment towards sustainable development, we've again decided to print copies only by request. Electronic copies of the annual report can be obtained on the Trust website. The Trust recognises the need to provide information in accessible formats. So if you do require a hard copy of any of the reports, or if you want to receive it in an alternative format, please contact us at the usual address, and the details again are on our website, and we'll be only too pleased to get our report to you in the format that you need. So now on to our suite of annual reports. First of all, the annual report executive summary. This outlines the key developments and achievements during 1920. It reflects on key programmes such as Blood Supply Chain 2020 and the new Velindre Cancer Centre. But we also celebrate our award-winning staff and services by recognising their achievements throughout the year. And these are far too numerous to contain in this meeting. But I did want to give just a flavour here of some of them. We've been recognised at the Wales Cancer Innovation Challenge for our work with industry partners, Meridian IT and Rescape, on the use of virtual reality and artificial intelligence to develop immersive training opportunities for doctors. Led by Karen White, we won a Wales Excellence Award for our groundbreaking work in becoming a menopause-aware and supportive employer. I think almost all of NHS Wales has taken on board this initiative now, but I think it's fair to say Velindre was the first off the mark to do that. And we saw a Maggie's Centre open to provide patients with valuable support in a relaxed and homely environment. The feedback from our patients from Maggie's is very positive. These are 3 quick snapshots just to give a flavour. There are many more achievements, and we will share some of them shortly in a video clip which we're going to play for you. The annual report executive summary is complemented by a suite of reports, as you'll see on the screen as I go through them. The first is the Performance and Sustainability Report, which details how we've performed against our targets and how we will seek to maintain or improve our performance. The Accountability Report provides information about how we manage and control our resources and risks and comply with our own governance arrangements. And the Financial Report details how we have spent the Trust's funding allocation in meeting our obligations. And the Annual Quality Statement highlights the actions we've taken to improve the quality of our services. I'd like to draw your attention now to 2 reports which we're going to go through in a little bit of detail. The first is the Annual Quality Statement, and I'd like to invite Nicola Williams, our Executive Director of Nursing, Allied Health Professionals and Medical Scientists, to provide you with a brief overview.
Diolch. This is the Trust's 8th Annual Quality Statement, through which we have celebrated a number of our successes and shared our challenges, and how we have met them. The annual quality statement summarises how the Trust is striving to continuously improve the quality of its services, the care and treatment we provide to our patients and donors, and how we have engaged with our patients, donors and the Community Health Council to have continual feedback on the services and care we have provided, and most importantly, how we have used this feedback and engagement to continually improve. The statement is based on 7 themes: staying healthy, safe care, effective care, dignified care, timely care, individual care, and our staff. As well as reflecting on the past year, the statement also details our priorities and aims for this year, 2020 to 2021. I will now hand you back to the Chair.
Thank you, Nicola. If any of the board members want to make an observation or raise any points, now is the time to do that. If not, I want to move on now to invite Mark Osland, our Executive Director of Finance, to report on the financial position of the Trust as at the 31st of March 2020. Mark, you're on mute.
That was a good start. I was the first one to do that today. I say thank you, Chair, and good afternoon. I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about our financial performance for last year before we move on to, I'm sure, what everybody would regard as probably a more exciting part of the agenda a bit later on. So today we're looking back. We're looking back to 1920, and that does seem quite a long time ago now, actually, and a lot has happened, obviously, since March last year. Circumstances I don't think any of us believed that we would experience. But once the pandemic actually started to bite towards the end of last financial year, as a whole, it didn't influence the performance or the impact on last year materially. So when I talk about the financial performance for last year, it was, for all intents and purposes, a normal year, if there is such a thing in the NHS. So we're setting aside any impact of the pandemic. I think, first of all, I think before maybe I just talk specifically about the financial performance, I'm conscious that some people joining the AGM today may not be that familiar with the context in which Velindre operates, financial context. So just a very, very brief word on that. The overall sort of organisation operated last year within a budget of around about 540 million, but that does include what we refer to as our hosted organisations. So that's the shared services, NWSSP, and NWIS, the NHS Wales Informatics Service. I would say that because the full set of statutory accounts, which you'll have access to, is a consolidated picture of the organisation as a legal entity. So it's important to just note that. But today, of course, the AGM today is focusing on our core services, what we refer to as core services, cancer care and treatment, the blood service, supported by our corporate support functions. And those activities operated within a budget of around about £140 million. So it's a bit of the context. I suppose we are relatively small in terms of compared to other NHS organisations, but of course that doesn't mean that our financial difficulties are any less. And I think whilst the NHS settlement over the last few years, I think, has been fairly positive in comparison to many other government portfolio departments, we will of course always want more money. So in that respect, I will continue to convey the message. I think many of you heard me say this before, and that is that we have to use the money that we do have in the best possible way that we can, get the most benefit out of the allocation to benefit our patients, our donors, and our staff. And I think I'm conscious, you know, most people in Velindre are aware of that, and they do remain financially alert, and they do consider that a key responsibility. And I think there's a big thank you from the board and the executive for everybody in Velindre that actually, makes that happen. So I'll turn specifically to the financial performance. I'm going to just concentrate on the high-level targets. There is, of course, the statutory accounts, which provides a lot more detail, but just in terms of the high-level numbers and our financial duties, there are some key ones that are highlighted. And the first one most people will be familiar with is a duty that we have to break even. Technically, from a legal perspective, that is a requirement over a 3-year period. But in attempting to do that, we do set ourselves the goal of trying to break even every year. And for 1920, we did actually underspend, so we did break even, a very small amount, just 14,000. And that's in terms of, as I said, the overall context of the budget of 140 million. So I think it's a really, really good result on our revenue budget. We have a second key financial target, and that's to prepare a 3-year financially balanced integrated medium-term plan, submit that to the government and get it approved by the minister. And again, that was achieved. The period which is relevant for that, for this AGM, is the 1920 to 21-22 financial year. And that IMTP was approved by the minister in March 2019. You'll normally see actually a third key financial target in the accounts called the financial limit. And this is associated with our sort of capital expenditure and our cash management of the organisation. But that actual key target was suspended by the Welsh Government for 1920, and primarily because of the cash impact that we had to manage as a result of the pandemic towards the end of March. So the actual target was suspended, but nevertheless, we still had to meet our capital expenditure ceiling that's set by Welsh Government. And again, we managed to, I think, have an excellent achievement there, underspending only by a very, very small amount. In fact, it was a couple of £1,000 against a budget of over 8.5 million. So again, an excellent result on the capital side. And finally, the Trust has a duty to make prompt payments to its suppliers. We have to ensure that we achieve at least 95% of all non-HS invoices are paid within 30 days. And again, that was achieved. We processed over 74,000 invoices as an organisation, and we achieved a percentage payment rate of 97.4% within the time limit. So again, that target was achieved. The full accounts have been audited, as you would expect, by Audit Wales. They are content to provide a clean audit report. And the audit this year, of course, just to mention, it was conducted under very different circumstances because it occurred during the periods of April and May primarily, all done remotely. And I think, again, excellent working relationship between the Audit Wales team and my own staff, actually, to meet all the necessary revised timetables and the deadlines and produce a clean audit report at the end of the day. So I think that was, again, a really good achievement. I'm obviously extremely pleased that we managed to meet all our targets again, but as I say this every year, it's not a finance department's achievement, it's everybody's achievement, and it's just again just a reflection of all the hard work across the Trust by everybody who has said remains, really financially vigilant and alert, and I think that everybody's delivered on this positive result that I'm conveying today. So I think that's all I had to say. The full statutory accounts, as I mentioned, are available. It's good reading, it's detailed reading, and it's available for you, and I will leave you read that at your leisure. And on that note, I'll hand back to the Chair.
Thank you very much, Mark. Again, if there are any observations colleagues wish to make or to raise, I'm happy to take them now. Our Chair of Audit is shaking his head, so that gives me a lot of assurance there. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our annual report section. And you note that I've just drawn your attention through our speakers to two of the reports, but I do invite you to visit our website and take a look at all the reports at your leisure. As always, we welcome feedback on any of our reports and any suggestions for how future editions might look, indicating what you'd like to see or hear. So please do get in touch. We would welcome that very much indeed. We did offer the opportunity for the public to raise any questions with us at this meeting. Because of the technology and so on, we needed to have those questions submitted in advance, but we didn't receive any. So what I'd now like to do is invite our Chief Executive, Steve Ham, to make a few final comments about the year gone past before we move into the next part of the programme.
Thank you, Donna, and for the presentations by Nicola and Mark as well. Just to thank everybody in the trust, the staff, volunteers and fundraisers who've helped contribute to this. We're all in this in terms of taking the trust forward, and I think it's really important to actually reflect on that as the documents do. I'd also like to thank my team in particular for supporting me and the rest of the board over those 12 months. Their contribution has been huge as always, and without them I wouldn't be able to do what I do. I also like to thank the chair and the rest of the board. I think the dedication and commitment over this period has been really significant as well. So just my thanks to everybody for contributing to this and helping us to carry on taking the trust forward, which I think truly is reflected in the suite of documents. And the suite of documents stand for themselves in many ways, but they can't really capture fully the level of commitment and energy that we see every day as we walk around the trust, which has been evident particularly over the last 6 to 8 months, which I'll come back to later. So thank you all again, and thank you, Donna, and I'll hand back to you now.
Well, thank you, Steve. And it's been remiss of me not to mention, even up until this point, that I'm supported by a very able team of independent members. As you said, Steve, they've done their job in a superb fashion over the last year, and the extra workloads, you know, the busyness around COVID and so on, they stepped up to the mark and they've been absolutely amazing. And I want to publicly thank all the independent members, as well as the rest of the board. We have, as I said, a statutory duty to provide an annual report reviewing our operational and financial performance, but we are delighted that this event is also a public engagement event, and it gives us an opportunity to tell you about the services we provide and to celebrate some of the exceptional achievements and successes, and to showcase some of the award-winning developments made possible by our staff, our wonderful fundraisers and our supporters. We couldn't be more proud, and this next section is called Bod yn Falch, meaning being proud. So the first item I want to introduce under this section is celebrating how proud we are of our commitment to the Wellbeing in Future Generations Act. This act is groundbreaking legislation passed by the Welsh Government. And to begin this part of the programme, I'd like to welcome Sarah Richards, who's Head of Programmes and Continuous Improvement at the Welsh Blood Service, and Rhiannon Collins, the Trust Environmental and Development Officer. We've invited you both to join us to share with us some of the wonderful work that's been undertaken over the past year, demonstrating our commitment to future generations and how the relevant principles were embedded into our work over the last 12 months. So over to you both, Sarah and Rhiannon.
Diolch yn fawr, Chair. It is a pleasure for us both to be invited here today. The Trust is, as it has been since the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act is enshrined into law, proud and passionate about embedding and integrating the Act into our work every day. As outlined within the Act, we published our Trust Wellbeing Objectives in April 2017. Earlier this year, the first Future Generations Commissioner, Sophie Howe, attended a board development session to gain an understanding of the work we have undertaken. The Commissioner complimented how our objectives were broad and ambitious in nature. This session only strengthened the Trust Board's commitment and passion for the Act. The dedication is apparent across the Trust. For example, transforming cancer services embeds the Act within every area of the programme. In Velindre Cancer Centre, there are numerous developments which contribute to each wellbeing goal and the Sustainable Development Principles. This includes the installation of a Nhs bike stand. We are proud this not only promotes active travel for our staff, but also for our local community. Furthermore, we are actively enhancing biodiversity following a statewide audit. Initiatives we have begun introducing throughout the estate include the reduction of mowing our lawns to promote natural growth, which will encourage bees and butterflies. From an educational perspective, we support our staff to understand that they can and have been contributing to the delivery of the Act. This has been achieved by hosting a series of awareness sessions. So in order to really harness the amazing work ongoing throughout the Trust, Sarah and I have developed a pilot of evaluating, promoting and celebrating the achievements. The pilot focused on the Blood Supply Chain 2020 programme, and we have developed a series of bilingual infographics which highlight the programme's successes and how they align and contribute to each wellbeing goal. We will proudly display these across the Trust. I'll now hand you over to Sarah, who will share the infographics with you.
Thank you, Rhiannon. In order to provide a little background, the Blood Supply Chain 2020 programme commenced in 2017 and is a 3-year programme looking at the Welsh Blood Service supply chain function to ensure it's fit for purpose and to address the service development and improvement opportunities that have been identified. As part of the pilot, looking at aligning our work to the Act, we looked at the contribution that the programme is making in working towards achieving the 7 wellbeing goals. I'd like to briefly share the infographics we've developed and highlight some of the achievements we are celebrating and look at how they link to the 7 goals. So, for the first goal, a globally responsible Wales, one of the examples we've highlighted shows that following a review in our transport department, we have saved 240 hours on the road every day. When we look at a healthier Wales goal, the programme developed and implemented a new hospital delivery schedule that resulted in 100% of customer hospitals that responded confirming improved consignment delivery times. A resilient Wales goal, one of the examples we highlight in this infographic is the reduction in the volume of paper we use in promoting our donation clinics, a huge 75% decrease. For a prosperous Wales goal, we've showcased the reduction in our did not attend rate at our donation clinics. By sending reminders and making it easier for donors to cancel appointments, we have 87% of our donors attending their appointment. When we look at a more equal Wales, we've highlighted the increase in the number of young donors attending clinics. Thanks to the work of the Blood Supply Chain 2020 programme, 24,000 donations were received from 17 to 30-year-olds. That's around 1,000 more than the previous year. Now focusing on a Wales of cohesive communities. By engaging community influencers across Wales, we've been able to reach a much wider audience by asking them to share our messages via their social media platforms and websites. And last but not least, a Wales of vibrant culture and thriving Welsh language. By starting to use sixth form venues for our donation clinics, we've seen 300 new young donors, with the added bonus that these donors are also eligible to join the Welsh Bone Marrow Donor Registry. So in developing and sharing these infographics and others like them, we can clearly make the link between the amazing work that's being carried out across all areas of our trust in supporting the delivery of the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act and in embedding the Act into everything we do on a daily basis. Thank you for the opportunity to share our work, and I'll now hand back to the Chair.
Thank you, Sarah and Shannon. It was excellent to see some of the live examples of how passionate we are as a trust about embedding and integrating the Act into our everyday work. We received, the board received a presentation from Sarah and Rhiannon just recently, and so impressed were we. And so, well, not exactly unaware, but when you see it all together, you really get a feel for the impact of everything that we're doing. So impressed were we that we wanted to share those successes with the public. And again, if there are any observations anybody would like to make, now is the time to do that. I can't see anybody's hand up, so I'll move on to the next section. And in this section is about celebrating the achievements of our fundraisers, our supporters, and our donors, as well as our staff. And it's with great pride that I introduce a short video highlighting some of their many achievements. And I just want to say how proud we are and how thankful we are to our fundraisers, supporters, and to our donors. And when I say donors in this sense, I mean individuals who donate blood and other products. Because when that term comes after the word fundraisers, you might think I'm meaning donors in the sense of donating money to the organisation, but I mean those remarkable individuals who donate blood regularly to the Trust and on to NHS Wales. So I hope that you will enjoy watching this video with us.
Well, this is Cortex. As you can see, it shows the location of every WBS vehicle that we own. The main reason we've had it is for the safety and welfare of the drivers.
The event today, which was the R&D showcase, went really well. Everyone seems pleased with the feedback from Trust Exec Board and here and Trust Welsh Blood Senior Management Team.
A really inspiring morning. I joined this organisation 2 years ago, and the research strategy for Welsh Blood Service was in its infancy at that point. And what's been so good about today is to see how far they've come. They've developed so many lines of inquiry which really stand a very good chance of improving patient outcomes, patient experience and donor experience. And one of the things that really has impressed me is how our clinical scientists have found a way to communicate very complicated scientific developments in a way that the general public can understand. Congratulations to everyone, it's been a truly inspirational morning.
So we've just had a fantastic morning this morning, so great to see some staff from the ground just showcasing the talent within the building and talking about RD&I partnerships that are taking place with either commercial companies, academia, but more importantly about their future thoughts and how this work is really influencing work within UK Blood Services, European, but internationally on a global level as well. It's absolutely fantastic morning, and I couldn't be more proud from the team that I've seen this morning.
The EMS is an environmental monitoring system. It monitors the temperature of all of our fridges and freezers so that we can ensure that all of our blood and blood components remain safe to use at all times.
The semester patch project was a major upgrade to our e-producer software that we use for the management of the blood supply chain here in the Welsh Blood Service. So this was the first kind of major upgrade that we've done since we went live back in May 2015 with the systems.
The most important donation is your first one, and the second most important is your next one. Always the next one, and that's the way I've done it all since they've been doing writing.
Like any large hospital, there are nurses and porters, domestics and admin staff. But because this is a specialist cancer centre, there are also those who have unique expertise in disciplines like radiotherapy and chemotherapy.
Cyflwynir y Wobbery, the BAFTA Cymru Award goes to Velindre Hospital of Hope.
My life motto is to take every chance that you can, because you'll only end up regretting the chances that you didn't take.
I hope you all enjoyed that short video and the picture there at the very end of our much treasured and much missed colleague Donna Campbell, who unfortunately died very early on in the pandemic at Easter time last year, and her family are very proud to support us in celebrating Donna's memory with you all today. But it's so important in today's uncertain times to note and celebrate all of our wonderful achievements, and we haven't been able to include everybody, but I don't want anyone to feel left out. When you read the annual report, there's a more comprehensive list of all the wonderful achievements of all of our staff, and all motivated by their desire to want to do the very best for our patients and donors. And I just want to note that the success of our charity is down to all our valued fundraisers and supporters, and so on behalf of the corporate trustees, I extend a huge vote of thanks for their continued generosity, not just in monetary terms, but in the time that it takes. The time that they devote towards fundraising should never be underestimated, and we're very grateful to them all. And so now we come to something really very different, as the saying goes. That's an old Monty Python saying, I think. And I want to talk a little bit about Pride and how proud we are to support NHS Pride. For the past 20 years, there's been a Pride event in Cardiff. It started with Mardi Gras, then Pride Cymru, and then the big weekend. And for many of those years, Velindre's been there, starting with a stall and moving to being part of the parade itself. Staff and their families, including our very own Chief Executive Officer Steve Ham and senior managers, have taken part over the years, learning dances, songs, and demonstrating their understanding of the need for Pride to exist, because hate has no place in the NHS or indeed in our society. But we don't wish Pride to be seen as an event which we engage in once a year during a period and then it's done. We wanted to take the opportunity of our annual general meeting to align ourselves with celebrating inclusiveness, and we've chosen a very novel way of doing this. Through the miners' strike of 1984-5, an unlikely alliance developed between striking miners in the Delice Valley, which is where my family come from, and an LGBT community in London. Mark Ashton, influential in that LGBT community, noted that when you tackle inequalities and inequities, you shouldn't concentrate only on the group that you're part of or identify with, but all groups who are marginalised, excluded, or oppressed. These are not the exact words used, I've paraphrased them a little bit, but a film of that relationship called Pride was made, and I really do recommend it as one of the most uplifting films I've ever watched. In one scene, in a miners' welfare hall, spontaneous singing breaks out, led by one of the characters. And I'm pleased to say that that singer has joined us this afternoon, and she's going to sing that song for us. If you look at the photograph, which is on your screens now, the front photograph of a beautiful young woman is Bronwyn as she is today. And then just behind that, you can see Bronwyn as she appears in the film, with none of her characteristic makeup and so on. It's, the difference was quite astonishing. And so I'd like to introduce Bronwyn to us now. I'm delighted that she's able to join us today. Hoping the technology works, Bronwyn's going to be singing to us from her own home, and she's going to introduce one of the most famous it's a song that appeared in the film, and for me, it absolutely stole the show in that film. Over to you, Bronwyn.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you very much. It's an honour to be performing for you this afternoon. Hello, welcome to my living room. This is where I've been hosting virtual concerts since March, just to lift spirits in a difficult time. My first virtual concert reached 150,000 people, which was incredible, and it shows how much music can help us through difficult periods. As Donna mentioned, I was lucky enough to be in the film Pride, which was released in 2014 and went on to win a BAFTA The film follows a story about unlikely people coming together in solidarity during an incredibly difficult time and finding similarities and beauty within each other. It made sense to sing this today as the idea of the meeting is very similar to the film. By working together and having pride in what we do, we can accomplish anything. So here it is, without further ado, Bread and Roses. As we go marching, marching in the beauty of the day, a million darkened kitchens, a thousand millobes grey, are touched with all the radiance that a sudden sun discloses. For the people hear us singing, bread and roses, bread and roses. As we go marching, marching, we battle too for men, for they are women's children, and we murder them again. Our lives shall not be sweated from birth until life closes. Hearts starve as well as bodies. Give us bread, but give us roses. As we go marching, marching, unnumbered women are dead, go crying through our singing their ancient call for bread, small art and love and beauty, their drudging spirits new. Yes, it is bread we fight for, but we fight for roses too.
Thank you, Bronwyn. That was truly amazing. And Bronwyn's going to sing for us again just shortly. This meeting has given us the opportunity to review the year which is past. With COVID, Brexit and the development of transforming cancer services in South East Wales, I can safely predict, I think, looking at you, Steve, that it's going to be another eventful year. And so I'd just like to ask Steve Ham, our Chief Executive Officer, to provide a brief forward look to 2020, 2021 and beyond.
So we've heard about some fantastic work which has been undertaken across the Trust earlier in the AGM, and the stories of innovation, improvement and dedication in putting patients and donors first. I think that provides us with a really firm bedrock on which to build for the future and to continue to deliver for our patients and donors. I've been delivering these forward looks for several years now, and I don't think I've I know I've never had a context like this one within which to consider what that might look like. At the end of last year, as you mentioned earlier, Donna, we were just beginning to respond to a once-in-a-century event, which continues to dominate our lives both in work and at home today, and is likely to continue to dominate into the future as well. Our teams, alongside our patients, have had to respond and change at the pace, which has been inspiring for us all. I think to see that and the energy that was put into it was absolutely incredible. The commitment and energy of everyone in this response was not unexpected, was quite exemplary. We've now found what's a new business as usual. I think we talk about that quite a lot because life isn't like it was in February, and life isn't going to be like that in the in the short term either. So what we need to do is support us in the coming months using that new business as usual. The things we've developed and amended and adapted, I think will serve us well in the coming months. The future will require us to be very flexible in our responses and agile for all of us, not just some of us. I think it requires that. And again, not just in our work lives, but in our home lives as well. The situation will change almost on a daily basis, and we need to adapt to that. And I think that energy and commitment will serve us well in those times. But we also need to think about each other during that as well, and make sure we support each other and recognise where people need that support in the organisation is really important. I've talked at previous AGMs about our desire to become more agile and empowering as an organisation, and we certainly had to deliver that in the beginning of this year. And I think one of the things I really don't want to lose over the coming months, and it's served us really well, is to retain that. I think probably looking back as we've used those words over the previous years, we wonder what that meant and how we do it. And I think the one thing it has done is push us and make us deliver against those things. We need to retain those characteristics and build them to become a better connected organisation, looking after each other, recognising our well-being needs and other things over the coming months and possibly years, and empowering each other to continue to deliver for our patients and donors. We've clearly got some really important strategic programmes to take forward, and they will be prevalent in the coming months and years as well. We continue to face uncertainty and new challenges. However, together we can build and extend what we already deliver. We've got an ambitious agenda as an organisation, but we face challenges as a result of the pandemic. However, the dedication and commitment of us all, we continue to move forward. I continue to be extremely proud of the organisation that I lead. I'm excited about that future with all of its uncertainty. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, Steve. As I've said at the outset, I've had the pleasure of being chair of this trust for a little over 2 years. And I'm going to repeat something which you've said now, Steve, but I think it requires repeating. It's so important. And that is that I continue to be overwhelmed, inspired, and immensely proud of the work that we do, the passion and the commitment of our staff, and most recently, their resilience and dedication in the most challenging of times to keep our patients and donors at the heart of everything that we do. So before I close, I'd just like to draw your attention, this is by way of introducing a segue into things, draw your attention to some of the achievements we've made in our commitment to supporting the Welsh language and promoting the Welsh culture. Since the introduction of the Welsh language standards, the focus sits as part of the Workforce and Organisational Development Department, and this includes the training programmes for the workforce. Providing this focus has meant that all initiatives of the workforce, which ultimately provide support for patients and donors, takes into account the needs of Welsh speakers. And I urge you to learn more about the work underway in our annual Welsh language report. So that brings us to the end of our annual general meeting, but before ending, I would like to thank everyone who's worked so hard to prepare for the meeting today, including our staff from Corporate Services, Emma Stevens, Michelle Evans, Lucheska Walters and Julie Mann, and the IT staff who wouldn't have been able to have this virtual public meeting without their support. Thank you. I'm grateful to you all. And I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed your time with us, and I'd be very grateful for and welcome any feedback. To bring our meeting to a close, I'd like to welcome Bronwyn Lewis once more. She's going to sing for us a beautiful song which she wrote during the pandemic, Ar Ddiwedd Dydd, the end of the day. And when Bronwyn finishes singing, it signals the end of the meeting. So thank you to all who've attended once again. Diolch I chi gyd.
Thank you very much, Donna. Thank you. Yes, as Donna mentioned, I wrote this song as the world fell into lockdown. And I remember feeling quite alone and afraid and unsure, as I bet many of us did. I decided to put pen to paper and I started to make sense of my feelings as I wrote. The outcome was the line, dim ond cariad sydd, ar ddiwedd dydd, which translates to only love matters at the end of the day. I am a proud Welsh speaker and I wanted to convey the worry of the last few months turning into love for one another and hope for a brighter future in our beautiful language. So, without further ado, to close, here is Ar ddiwedd dydd. Ta'n lohe bobaith ar ddyddiau fy hun, isio rhywun i'n gafael a dal y fi'n dyn. Pobl yn troi yn erbyn I gilydd ac yn ymladd dros ddydd. Ond mae golau bychan yn pob man I weld rhaid I ni wneud yn dan a cadw adain diloliad yn ni. Estynwch law mewn cyfnod wael a buom ni'n dechrau gweld yr hael a gweld y gwrau sydd yn ni. Mae wawr yn y pellter yn sleinio arna I. Mae'r nos yn eithaf tywyll nawr ond fel golau gyda ffydd. Rwy'n gwybod bod ti'n poeni ond mae'r byd dal I troi I llyd. Dim ond cariad sydd ar y ddiwedd dydd. Poeni am y gweddill, heb neb I droi adnaw. Rhaid I ni ddangos cariad ac estyn at y wawr. Troi geiriau cas yn feddal, troi stwr mewn I gofleidiad a ffaindio hyn. Ond mae golau bychan yn pob man I weld rhaid I ni wneud un dan a gadw adain diloliad yn ni. Estynwch law mewn cyfnod wael a buom ni'n dechrau gweld yr hael a gweld y gwrau sydd yn ni. Mae wawr yn y pellter yn sleinio arna I. Mae nos yn eithaf tywyll nawr ond fel golau gyda ffydd. Rwy'n gwybod bod ti'n poeni ond mae'r byd dal I droi I llyd. Dim ond cariad sydd ar y ddiwedd dydd. Ond mae golau bychan yn pob man I weld rhaid I ni wneud un dan a gadw adain diloliad yn ni. Estynwch law mewn cyfnod wael a buom ni'n dechrau gweld yr hael a gweld y gwrau sydd yn ni. Mae wawr yn y pellter yn sleinio arna I. Mae'r nos yn eithaf tywyll nawr ond mae golau gyda ffydd. Rwy'n gwybod bod ti'n poeni ond mae'r byd dal I droi I llyd. Dim ond cariad sydd ar y ddiwedd dydd. Ar y ddiwedd dydd. Dim ond cariad sydd ar y ddiwedd